Hey YouTube, it's your boy Black Market. I wanted to go through a trade review with you guys. I wanted to walk you through essentially how I'm trading right now, and just an example of a trade I would have taken. Um, this was yesterday, and I actually had to go in the office a little bit earlier than usual, so I didn't actually get to execute this trade. But I just wanted to show you how I had looked at this trade pre-market, how I set it up, and then how that trade ended up turning out on Wednesday. So right now in the market, if you're looking at the market in general, right, as you can see, if we go to the ES here, so on this Wednesday here, you can see we were kind of right at the 21. And whenever you're right at that 21 EMA, right, you want to be a little bit cautious if you're getting in the trade to buy calls or puts, right? Because the trade obviously can go anywhere, but it was still above that 21. So to a certain extent, I was bullish, although we were at the lower, the I guess support level kind of that zone. But I was still looking at bullish trades um, since we were still above that 21. But since we were showing signs of weakness, right, I didn't want to look at any trades where I had to swing that trade into the next day, or any monthlies where I would buy out a month and look for that trade to actually have a trend, right? Because you can see, right, we were coming back down to that 21, so I was looking for a fast trade. So in this instance, I was looking for a trade where I could get in on maybe a 5 minute chart or maybe an hourly chart and trade a pop in that stock. So if we look at Boeing, so this is what I'm looking for. When I was looking through my stocks here, or scanning for stocks to trade, right? Once again, we want to see these red dots here, meaning that that stock's in a squeeze. Then once we see these red dots, I want to see that pressure building, right? That buyer pressure building, or those light blue bars. And once I see a stock that has those light blue bars that's being built and the red dots, then I zone in and I look to see if that stock's tradable. So you can see it's in the squeeze and that there's buying pressures building. So that's the first thing I wanted to look at. Now my second thing is go back to the ES. Okay. So if I go back to the ES, right, the ES open here. So essentially the ES, when I looked at this trade, it was above the 21. So that's check mark number 2. Now, right, since I looked at the market, then I want to look at, and I looked at the stock, then I want to look at the sector and see where the sector's at. XLY, if you go back and look this how the sectors were on Wednesday, the XLI sector was one of the strongest sectors. So money was coming out of tech, money was coming out of semiconductors, and it was going into energy, it was going into industrials, right, and it was going into finance. So you can see here the sector was still strong because it was above that 21. So that's kind of my third check mark, because I'm looking to buy a stock that's gonna go up or buy a call position, right? So that's kind of my third check mark there. So now, since I've looked at the market, the sector, and the stock, right? Now what I want to do is I want to go look on a 5 minute chart. And so here I've got my 21, or my mean, drawn in. I've got my 8 EMA drawn in, and then I've got my VWAP drawn in, or my volume indicator on the stock. So this is how I would set up on a day trade. So I decided to trade this stock on the 5 minute chart because, like I said earlier, I wanted to get in on a stock that would pop quick and get out, right? So that's kind of how my day trade was set up. So if we go back to Boeing, so I knew here on Wednesday the stock was around $225, right? That's where it opened at. So if we go to the daily chart, now this is how I would figure out my exit level. So if we go to the daily chart, then I know on average that day, Boeing was moving about $8.50, right? So I'm looking to trade just one ATR, right? So that means if I added the 225 where it opened at approximately, plus the 8 or so, eight and a half bucks, that would put me around $234 for an exit point. So I marked that line, right? That's where I'm going to get out on my trade to exit. So now, if we go back to the VIX, last but not least, so now if we look at the VIX on the daily, because that's the other key factor we want to look at is the VIX. This VIX, right, on Wednesday, right, it was below, it started below that 21. So, prior to it making this run up, it had started below here. So essentially the VIX was weak. Okay. So now I go into my 5-minute chart, and this is how I would have traded the stock. So now I'm looking at my 21 EMA. If I enter the trade, all I'm going to do is play that 21. Okay. I'm going to enter, and you can see here when you got the VWAP, the 21 and the 8 kind of all together, and that VWAP and 8 and the 21 all go up together, or if you've got the 8 that crosses that VWAP and 21, usually that's a pretty good bullish sign where they're kind of all together, right? And moving up. So I would have entered here, and then you could have played this one of two ways. You could have entered here right at the open, so right above that 8 EMA, and then you could have played the 8 EMA all the way up to 233, right where I had said I wanted to get out $234 range. Okay, so you could have gotten in at the 8, played the 8 EMA, and got out on a close below the 21. So your entry would have been above the 8, and your exit would have been a close below the 21. And you can see here, if you would have gotten in and just rolled that 21 up, right, you would have gotten out here prior to that close below the 21. And the reason why you want to play these short plays in a market like this is you can see it once the market's near that 21, if it goes up or down, right, you've got quick movement. So if you would have been holding on to this, you easily could have gotten to your key mark here up at the $234 range. And then you can see how that stock just trickled back down, right, for the rest of the day. So, and that's why you want to really play that one ATR movement. So if you look at how that option performed, and this is the $230 option that I was looking at buying that day. So you can see here on that Wednesday, right, if you would have gotten in at the, right at open, or you could have gotten in here right when it closed below the 8, around the 730 range. You can see you would have paid $229, and it got out, and you would have gotten out around 930-ish. And you're looking at that same option would have been worth about $650. So you're looking at, a 184% gain in about 2 hours. So that's kind of an example of a trade I would have taken, and an example of a trade you can take that is squeezing on a 1 hour chart, and that you can get a quick play on, either off that 1 hour chart, or you can look at a 5-minute chart and trade it based off that 5-minute chart. So if you got any questions, concerns, comments, you guys know what to do. Hit your boy up. It's Black Market. Talk with you later. Bye.